totally get it. Oh man, it's so great to meet you, sir. It's an honor. I appreciate you taking a minute out, man.
It's my plan. And where are you?
I'm in Kansas City, Missouri.
Hold on. Oh, you can
Oh,
see
I
it.
see it. I do it. I see it. I
I,
love it.
I, I'm from Creston, Iowa, so I've been a Chiefs fan since they were the Texans.
Wow. I grew up in Liberty, Missouri, and used to watch them in the dark ages.
Oh yeah,
And I'd play basketball with Art Still,
did you?
Duron Cherry, all those cats. And Nick Lowry used to rib me for the cops
Yeah.
would give us football cards to sign. He was like, "You're not selling these, are you, kid?" I said, "You realize how old I am? I don't even know how that works." But
It's funny. I know Nick. I know Nick. Yeah.
he's a
And
cool cat, but I still can't believe that they're a dynasty. I'm in disbelief still.
well, here's what I'd like to see Sunday. I mean, I'm actually flying to Chicago for my book release event, but we'll talk about. But
Yeah,
I'd like to see them actually just bulldoze and win by 15, 16, 17 points.
yeah.
And so all these naysayers or whatever they are, just shut up, and then
But
start screaming. I think they're going to start accelerating. Actually,
I do too. And I've always told people during that Eagles Super Bowl win, the problem with the Chiefs is this: no one picked us. If no one
right.
picks us, that's when it happens. So it's fine. They can totally say we're not going to do it because we always Andy Reid, that's his emblematic way. He will prove you wrong in a heartbeat.
And I bet you that Travis, I mean, he's the biggest decoy in the world, but I bet you he gets off on Sunday also. I mean, I think Worthy's going to get off, and I think Alligator Man's going to get off. So,
100%. Yeah, Kelsey's going to wake up. All these guys do. I mean, look at last year when they went into the playoffs against Miami. None of us thought we were like, "Oh man, what's going on?" And they woke up, and they woke up the whole time, and
yeah.
that was it. And then Saint Mahomes rode in on his horse, and that was it. They did it.
Now we got what's the name of that gal that used to ride in it before the game? Warpaint.
Yeah, that's right. Yep,
Maybe we should get that gal back on Warpaint.
100%. That would be the way.
Anyway, you know what? Screw
Yeah,
drumming and music and everything. So,
let's get into it. Yeah, no.
all right,
So
go ahead.
I gotta know, man, how did a kid from Iowa in a small town at the age of 5 know that you were going to become the legend and do what you did with your life? How did you know?
Well, at age 5, I didn't know. I mean,
Right.
I was still a kid, but I was, starting piano and it was difficult, at age 5, and my dad was kind of pushing me very hard, and I look over my shoulder at him, and I could see that he didn't have a smile on his face, and I'm trying to get through the Schwam method, and I didn't know. I mean, I was always beating around stuff, but I was a kid, man. I was making sticks and playing cowboys and Indians and throwing rocks and getting dirty and jumping off the garage and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. But then the drum bolt hit me between 7 and 8, and then by the time I was 10, and I had my first band and my first professional gig, that's when I knew.
Yeah. So the one thing about your life, which there's so much that goes into it, you've had such a storied relationship with Quincy. And when
Yeah,
I think about him being a jazz guy,
yeah.
man, those big band albums, those early years with him, it was just magic, warm analog honey that would go over your eardrums. It was beautiful.
When the last big band we toured with was I think 013, and James Ingram was still alive, but there were times during that parade where, and Greg and I were always, in the driver's seats, and I think they pulled up one of those 1960 charts, Birth of the Blues or Birth of the Cool.
Yeah.
One, I forgot the name of it, and I don't know if it was Sonny Payne playing drums, but it was fast. I mean,
Wow.
it was like 280 or maybe 250, and I'm going, holy shit! And so, oh, no, I know it was before we went to Montreux
Yeah.
with for his 75th birthday, and we had done one of those songs, and then Greg and I basically shedded it together, and then by the time we got in the bandstand and shared it with all the other musicians, we were able to fit into that 1960 mold, and it was all about a mindset. It wasn't about, oh my God, do I have enough chops to play this? Of course you do, but you need to control your professionalism and blow it that way.
You've always been on the forefront of music, like you said in your bio, of like every 10 seconds there's a song that you've been on. You're in the middle of this vortex of all of this amazing material. Were you just inside the peanut butter and couldn't see the label? How did you keep your head about you? How did you keep the stamina and the clarity.
Stamina. I mean, it's an interesting word. Sometimes, I mean, during those for early days when I moved to Los Angeles out of Boston, I was always playing basketball like you, and I was always an A player, and my A playing went all the way into through the Rufus days. For I stopped playing when I was 37, so I mean that was kind of a relief playing ball outside of drumming and being a family man and married and then driving. And being from Iowa, I didn't want to live in Hollywood. Jeez, who the hell lives in Hollywood?
Right.
Or anywhere near Hollywood. And so I kept moving out. I started out in Tarzana. Then I moved to a little kind of a small house in Calabasas, which probably now is worth 1.8
Yeah.
and a little shit box. And then I kept moving up and up and out and out and further out. So by me moving further out and as the sessions were growing, I was commuting more. So that was also part of the energy drain was, getting on the freeway with coffee sniffers and women doing their makeup while they're driving into their office jobs. And Jack and I, my son, we were talking about how many miles what do you think I've driven on the 101? And he goes, well, it's got to be multi millions of miles. I go, yeah, and over 30 plus cars too. So the stamina, I don't know if I answered it, but
You
I
did.
think mentally you need to, as I say in the book, you just need to look in the mirror and realize who you are and be happy with the direction that you've selected and just go forward.
So when you were growing up in Iowa, what was the first live show you saw where you thought, wow,
Oh,
that's amazing?
there were a couple. I remember my father taking me to see Buddy Rich up in Des Moines, and
Wow.
but I was looking at his daughter, because I was at age 12, and I'm thinking, wow, she's kind of cute. Wow, I mean, why am I looking at her? And then later Kathy and I became quite close, but uh, and that kind of blew my mind. But I think I saw Dave Clark 5 in 1965 when I was 10 at Veterans Memorial Auditorium,
Yeah.
and I was like. I go, "Hey, hell with the Beatles, man. Steve Clark 5, Steve Clark 5. And, it was a drummer leading the band. So, I was gravitated towards that. And then I saw the Animals about
Yeah.
6 months later opening up for Herman's Hermits. And I
Wow.
go, this is awful. And my sister goes, oh, I love Herman's Hermits. And I go, well, I don't, And let's see, there was something else. All around that. I remember my band directors, Dick Bauman and Dave Rissler, brought in the Basie band to our high school, and I was just a little kid. And I remember sitting in the sixth or seventh row, and some old lady from the church goes, "Johnny, I could look at you, and your foot wasn't stopping the whole concert." So I had a good upbringing with music.
So what was the first gig that you got where you were like, oh my God, holy shit, this is happening?
I have and I still can't find him, and he's listed in the book. His name is Kevin Clemens, and he was a year younger than me. He was 9, and he was a damn good guitar player. And our parents kind of hooked us up, and I went over and hung with him, and we had a conversation about, well, what do you like? We're kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You want to be a guitar player? Yeah. You want to be a drummer? Yeah. And we're talking and we're playing like Surf Records and The Ventures and early Beatles and listening. Do you like that? I go, yeah, but I don't like that. Or I like that. Why don't we get together? So then we dragged my 1945 black gold Ducos over with no toms and set them up. And I think we originally set up outside on their outdoor porch, and then we moved indoors and started playing. And so then pretty soon, um, we got a gig. I don't know how we got it. Opening up for a high school rock band out in the country on a flatbed truck.
Yeah.
And, all I remember is setting up on a flatbed truck. And I think we were on the back of somebody's house. Uh, and we played our 3 tunes or 4 tunes, and everybody's like, and I made $5.
Wow.
And I looked at Kevin and I go, today is the day I turn pro.
Wow.
And
That's
from then
awesome.
on, it's always been that mentality.
Wow. What was the toughest project you worked on that may have,
Oh,
that you grew the most, or you were like, oh my God, this is crazy, but it was savory at the end?
mm. I mean, when I first joined Rufus in '78, I was coming off the road from a band from Boston that was touring Ohio, and I was, I had my old '75 Gretsch drum set, and I was playing. I idolized Billy Cobham, and I was trying to implement Cobham-esque things, like maybe 30-second notes within a period of 2.5 beats. However, then the band I was in was a funky band, so I adjusted. But I had really powerful unmiked chops, and so when I joined Rufus, and after we finished that world tour in '78, we went into the studio with Roy Halley, the producer of Simon and Garfunkel,
Yeah.
and Bridge Over Troubled Waters, and I'm playing, and he comes out and he goes, John, let me tell you about microphones. And I'm going, cool, man. Like, friggin', I'm 23. I don't know shit. And he goes, you're overloading the capsules. And I go, explain that to me. So right then and there, I went to college with one of the greatest all-time engineers in the world, Roy Halley. And he talked to me about, and he goes, no, your technique's perfect. How you hit the drum and you pull the sound out. It's just, don't hit the drum so hard. Let the drum do the speaking for you, and let the microphone determine all the graciousness. And I go, okay. And so the next take, boom, I figured it out.
Wow.
And then I went through. So it was like early Rufus days, because the records I had done in Boston and Omaha. You don't know. You're a kid, and so then that. And I remember we were at Seals and Crofts Studios called Day 5, owned by a lady named Marcia Day out in San Fernando. And in the other room were Jeff's drums. And Jeff was coming in and I think recording with Seals and Crofts. But I didn't see him. And I went in there and I sat down on his drums. And, mine were just massive rock vibe, even
Yeah.
though they were Gretsch. I kind of converted the rock into a Gretsch thing. And they looked like an old Gretsch set. I don't know what the hell it was. And it was really thin and kind of ringy. And so I sat down and played for a while, and thin heads, and I absorbed it and realized that, wow, there's a different thing going on here. So I learned at that point. So I would say that. I mean, we can talk about, Stephen Stills, which is the stories in the book,
Yeah.
in 1978, and typical John Belushi moment. But and working with certain foreign projects that when they come to the table and we've got a crack A band that waiting to record their new stuff. This guy just got out of Berkeley and implemented every single note he ever learned in the 4 years at Berkeley on that one song on a chart.
Wow.
And we're like going, oh no.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that could be this is bait for the book, King of
Yeah.
the Groove.
100%. So the thing about writing a book, I would imagine, is it's quite a journey that maybe most people don't realize from start to finish. It's probably grueling. There's a lot that goes into it. How did this happen? After all these years, you've had one of the most illustrious careers in music. How did you finally say, this is going on pulp?
I met a lovely lady named Allison Mang from Toronto who's written 6 books, and hers are not musical. She's self help. She had a suicide in her family, and so she wrote things about that, and we met just at random in Sarasota about 3 years ago when I was headlining in Omaha for the J.R. Robinson Experience, which by the way will be coming out next year. Uh, and that's going to be interesting. But I'm just sitting at it. I just got off a plane. I got to start working with David Foster, and I see this gal. So like dressed up in pajamas, and we were talking, and so then we became close and talking on Facebook, and she goes, you should do a book. And I go, have you ever thought about doing a book? And I go, well, I've thought about it, but I don't know anything. I mean, I didn't really go to English class,
Right.
or English lit. I didn't do that. I was so busy with music and sports and science that I didn't really have, and drag racing. I didn't have time. And so she goes, I want you to go to Kinko's and buy all this stuff. So 2 weeks later, there's Post-its all over my control room. literally with ideas. Like a Richard Perry producer, he goes, JR is good as gold. So I wrote good as gold, Richard Perry. Boom. Or I'd write a George Duke scenario or a Stanley Clark or Quincy scenarios or whatever, high school scenarios and so pretty soon it looked like a bad wallpaper. And then we're zooming and I look at her room and hers is all notes. And then she came up with an exercise, which is just brilliant. You take these 100 words and circle 10 of them that pertains to you. And then take a break and then take those 10 and write an essay about yourself. And that essay basically then will be your direction. And so we've done it twice. We're doing it for my live show on October 1st. And when does this air, by the way?
It's probably going to be here next week.
Okay, this may be after the book release, right?
I think I'm gonna expedite it. It'll probably be before.
That would be good. So
Yeah.
just everybody and kingofthegroove.com and go to, but you'll be able to take that. So we use that same scenario even to prepare for this TV show. And so by that, and then Allie and I got a whole bunch of information. We hired another writer named Ralph, and then Allie ended up taking over the principal writing, and then I became a writer. And my mother was a great writer. Her father, my grandfather, was a journalist in Durham, North Carolina, and Atlanta, and worked for the Durham Bulls, and he was a sports writer. So I have it in me. It was just like, ugh. And there's times where, what does that word mean? I don't know what that word means.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to say, I got backbeatitis. I've been
Yeah.
playing for 61 years almost.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's about right. I started in '63. So, I've learned to corral and channel that energy into a whole nother direction. And it's almost entrepreneurship. And that's kind of where we are now.
So what did you learn about yourself? Obviously, this is your
Uh,
story. You've lived it. Did you learn something new about yourself?
yeah, I've learned that when you get older, you need to learn patience. And, when I was a young buck running 2 or 3 drum sets a day, um, sometimes you're not patient because you want to just do it, get your good part. You don't really give a shit about the rest of the guys in the rhythm section, and that's very much selfishness. I've learned not to be that guy. And I think wisdom, remember when we're 20 and 30, we know everything.
Of
We're
course.
badass,
Uh-huh.
man. We can rebel at universities because we're getting paid for it. Well, I didn't. We had to pay for our own. But,
Yeah.
wisdom is key. So I've learned wisdom. I've learned patience. And I've learned, you know, I've learned how to drive a little more conservatively, even though I was, quite a driver. But I mean, as myself, it does take money and success somewhat to pay back, and I've been trying to do that, and I have a foundation now called a Music Through Arts Fund, and that's what we're building also to help young kids and artists and dancers and things. But it's all trying to do that. I've got 3 boys that all still need a hand, and I'm helping. And as far as drumming goes, I'm learning that. Um, I mean, there's new news to share, by the way, and I'm learning about at this last quadrant of my career. Do I want to play fat, funky drums? Well, sometimes. Or, do I want to play bebop? On sometimes. But I'm actually making a move with Don Lombardi and John Good at DW, uh, and we're releasing Slingerland.
Wow.
And they're going to be like the 3 plies and the 4 plies that we knew in the '60s and '70s.
Yeah.
And so that officially probably we can just say now I'm working with Slingerland, and that will come out. So that's going to alter a conceptual sonic output from me, which is really good because that's kind of what I want to do.
Yeah. So when you take that little dot that started in Iowa and watch it go all over the world, What are you the proudest of what you've done professionally beyond your family and your boys? What is it that you're the proudest of?
I'm really grateful that me playing drums on all these records, which mostly were monumental, had affected someone's emotions worldwide. And David Foster makes a joke about, my music is basically baby making music. That's his joke. It's a shtick. Well, I'm sure that's true with me too, in a lot of those damn
Yeah,
ballads. You're one in a million years. Larry Graham. Nobody knows that, but it was a number one record for Warner Brothers. Just Once and things. But there are also, rocking things too, or Toby Keith, and it's nice to know that I've touched the hearts and souls of so many people like Rock with You, and people that don't know, maybe they don't really know about drumming or why are there drums. All I know is I feel them,
yeah.
and it's just to know that maybe I've helped somebody get through a day that's depressed, and they hear something on the radio, non-musical people, and it enlightens them. So I think that's the goal.
So at the end of the day, to really get people to run out and buy this book, I got a question. Everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, fans, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
It's interesting. I mean, even though I was in Rufus and Chaka Khan, I'm a band member, a corporate member, a Grammy winner. I always state that I've been in 1,000 bands instead of being in Rush in one band or
Yeah,
Cream, one band. And deep inside, when I was a little boy, I just wanted to be in one band.
yeah,
But that blossomed into multiple bands, and I think by that experience, and at this point, helps me not be a sideman and that sideman mentality. Also, not being a bad leader. That's why the J.R. Robinson experience is going to take off next year. We're going to be doing things that I want to do, plus hit records with singers singing them. It's not unlike a way that David Foster concert runs, but it's going to be probably a lot more groove oriented and hit records. So it'll touch people's emotion. So I guess I've learned to step out of the second row and get into the front row.
I love it. So King of the Groove is the phenomenal new book. If anyone wants to catch up with the book and what you're doing to promote it, any of the good business, where do they go? What do they do?
Amazon.com, they can type in King of the Groove, John Robinson. I mean, King of the Groove, I think will get you there. You can go to kingofthegroove.com and get it, and indirectly through johnjrrobinson.com. So we basically got everything pointed in one direction. And then as far as the event, if this thing airs before the event, and if you'd like, I can send you that link.
Sure.
I think I got to do it out of that computer, but people can tune in. I think it's 7 o'clock Central. We're doing it out of Chicago, near there, in Peru, Illinois, in a beautiful living room. And it's going to be we're going to do a 4 streaming platform live, which, most people just stream one way.
Yeah.
So we're going to try, I mean, I'm going to try to hit even the political X's.
Nice.
And, I think everybody, and by the way, this book, took 2 years with Allie's hard, producing and sweat and writing, and me too. To It's like almost more than doing a record on your own, which I am starting a third record. But that blood and sweat. It's a book that really features not drumming. It features humanity and self growth and positive points. It's like one look in the mirror, or success isn't based on how much you have. It's who you've become.
Yeah.
And like things like that. It's not. No, I love Dave Grohl to death, but it's not a Dave Grohl book.
Yeah. Right. I get it. So are the Chiefs geared up to do it
Nice
again?
segue.
Are they geared up to do it again?
Uh, I at this age I'm watching TikTok. How dare me? And I guess the algorithm is the more you watch, the more they pump the same
Uh-huh.
stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing all these guys. The Chiefs, it's been fixed. They're going to the Super
Yeah.
Bowl. They're going to be undefeated, and they're going to be the only 20-0 team ever and win the Super Bowl. You know what? Wouldn't that be good for Patrick?
Yeah. It would.
Wouldn't that be good for the Hunt family? That's busted their ass, making a move. And a lot of people also, I'm going to support the Chiefs here. It is not an indigenous Indian logo. There was a guy, he was the chief of the organization from Dallas, and I can't remember his name, some old dude that Lamar knew.
Uh-huh.
That's how it was called the Chiefs once they were the Texans. So,
Yeah.
I'm not, that's my only political positive. Um, I think if they lost one, I mean, you think about, I mean, we were very young when the Dolphins went 14-0.
Yeah.
And I kind of don't remember it because I was too busy drumming. But if they're 17-0, there's a shitload of pressure on them.
Oh, yeah.
That means they got 3 playoff games.
Yeah.
And I have a distinct feeling if they did go undefeated, first of all, that would just shock the NFL, change the NFL, make them an instant dynasty. Brady might actually like Patrick.
Right.
And some of the other people. I mean, Patrick's the nicest guy in the world. I've met Travis and hung with him. He's really nice.
Yeah.
And I think that's the whole thing. They're nice. They're not bad boys, except Rashid crashing up that $2 million car. But
Yeah.
you got to learn not to go so fast.
100%.
Just go fast on the 100 yards.
That's it. Exactly. John Robinson, this has been wonderful. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your story. Best of luck with the book and everything. It's so great to meet you. I appreciate it.
And let's see, last plug, David Foster at the Hollywood Bowl on November 3rd for his 75th birthday. All star-studded cast, and I'm going to be unveiling the Slingerlands there.
Excellent. Beautiful.
All right,
Thank you, sir. I
Joe.
appreciate it.
Thank you. I'll send you a link, bro.